My name is Elise Schnarr, and I am currently a kindergarten teacher in the Raymore Peculiar School District. This is my Miscue analysis presentation. For this presentation, I will be overviewing a Procedure 3 Miscue analysis. The purpose of a Procedure 3 is to gain a better insight into a reader's habits and provide them with opportunities to help them become a more proficient reader. For this Procedure 3 administration, I chose MJ. For the purpose of this assignment, I will refer to the student as MJ throughout the entire time. MJ is an 8-year-old female student in 2nd grade. She lives in Raymore, Missouri, and she attends Creekmore Elementary. She is in a class with 13 boys and 11 girls. MJ has a true love of learning and reading. She works hard in all subject areas, but she does have a personal preference for reading and overall learning. She told me that her favorite book series was Dork Diaries, and some of her favorite reading things include reading to her younger sisters and helping other students in her class who might be struggling with an area in reading. One of the first steps in conducting the Procedure 3 is getting permission from the parents. In this particular situation, I am actually the parent. MJ is my daughter, and I took this as an opportunity to learn more about her as a reader and also to assist her classroom teacher in some areas of concern. For this analysis, I chose Charlotte's Web. The reader read Chapter 1 of Charlotte's Web. I did this in order to make sure that we had at least 500 words and to allow the opportunity for 30 to 40 miscues. I was able to get a typescript from the Watson Literacy Center, and I wrote my own retelling guide. This book is at the higher end of the reader's Lexile level, but it did provide for great opportunities for this analysis. We started our journey with the Burke reading interview. I was excited to hear all about her great reading habits. She told me that she really enjoys reading and that she has some great strategies that she uses that her teachers have taught her over the years. She seems to be a fan of the sounded out strategy. She also says she will try to skip words and she would like to get better at asking the teacher for help when it comes to an unknown word. She wants to work on looking at the whole word first before she just takes a guess. She did end our interview by telling me that she loves reading and she does think of herself as a good reader. For the next several slides, I'm going to journey into the coding of our typescript. Again, she read Chapter 1 of Charlotte's Web. I coded 99 sentences, and in those 99 sentences, MJ had 43 miscues. One of the very first things I noticed about MJ's reading was she had a high tendency to repeat words or phrases. She also has a high level of self-corrects, especially in the first couple pages of our typescript, which is about the first 25 lines. Most of her miscues also sound like language, make sense, and do not change the author's intended purpose. Again, those are the type of miscues that we're really wanting our readers to have. As I look at the next couple of pages of the typescript, I continue to see the same trends from the first part. A lot of repeated phrases and words, several self-corrects. She does start to have the tendency to sound out words, and she's also starting to leave off endings of words, but she is coming back to correct those. She does have a couple mistakes with her sight words, substituting like for of, a for the. You'll notice later on in the presentation when I talk more about our RMA session that she noted that she just was not used to hearing herself read out loud. And so several times she would have to stop and do it again because it just did not sound right to her. Moving on in the TypeScript, she did continue to show that trend again of those repeated phrases and self-corrects. I am still seeing more insertions of words. She's also starting to make miscues that change the author's intended purpose or that do not make sense, such as saying the word spiceman for specimen. Also, saying nonsense word like distrute for distribute. I noticed that when things like that happen within her reading, she's not stopping to see if it makes sense. She continues to go on. Some of those miscues did come out in her retell, but most of them did not have an overall impact on her comprehension of the story. Heading into the last 10 or 11 lines of chapter 1, the reader did start to hit a frustration level. She was having more miscues than previously in the chapter. She still had a high level of self-corrects, and she was also still repeating more phrases than she previously had. She continued to follow the trend of making sure her sentences sounded like language, made sense, and did not change the author's intended purpose. She only had a couple of sentences that did not make sense, therefore I could not answer question 3. Overall, she did a great job with this activity. I did note that it took her 12 minutes to read, which seemed like a reasonable amount of time. And again, she had a total of 43 miscues. After having MJ read, we went into a conversation about the story, and I asked her to just tell me what she remembered from the story. She was able to tell me several characters and give me several main events. We went into a different conversation where I offered open-ended questions to try to get more information out of her about the story. She was able to tell me the setting, listed more main events from the story, and was able to capture the main idea. Overall, I scored MJ 82 out of 100, or an 82% comprehension score. She was able to give a sequential retell without prompting, but she did leave out several details until I gave her more opportunities with those open-ended questions. The next step of the procedure 3 is to tally the miscues using the miscue tally form. I used a total of 3 pages to tally all of the miscues. On the first page, I noted 18 miscues. Of those 18 miscues, 11 were self-corrected. Of the uncorrected miscues, 4 offered no meaning change, 1 offered partial meaning change, and 0 with meaning change. In reference to graphic similarities, 8 miscues had high or some graphic similarities, with 2 miscues having no graphic similarity. On the second tally form, again, there were 18 miscues total on that page. 9 miscues were self-corrected. Of the uncorrected miscues, 4 offered no meaning change, 2 with partial meaning change, and 1 with meaning change. In reference to graphic similarities, 9 had high or some graphic similarities, and 2 miscues offered no graphic similarities. When looking at the graphic similarity section, this does go along with MJ telling me that she tends to not look at the whole word when she is reading, especially an unknown word. This is the last page of the miscue tally form. On this page, I only tallied 7 miscues. Of those 7 miscues, 3 were self-corrected. 1 uncorrected miscue had no meaning change. 1 uncorrected miscue offered partial meaning change, and no uncorrected miscues with meaning change. With graphic similarities, 5 miscues had high or some graphic similarity, and 0 miscues had no graphic similarity. And when we look at the reader profile, I will go into more detail about all of those numbers. The reader profile can be used as a snapshot of the reader's procedure 3. It's a great teaching tool to plan for the reader and see what their next steps need to be. Just by looking at this one at a glance, I can see that my reader had 89% comprehension in process. That means she had a coding of YYN and she was maintaining the author's purpose 89% of the time. 100% of the time, she makes her reading sound like language with that syntactic acceptability. 94% of the time, she makes her reading make sense with the semantic acceptability. And 89% of the time, she did not have any meaning change to the text. I can also see that her comprehension from the retelling guide was 82% and that her total miscues were 43. Of those 43 miscues, 53% of them are self-corrected. Some notes I made about the reader was that she was a proficient reader. She reads with expression. She does repeat phrases often, and she offered a detailed retelling that was in order of events. I've already touched on several of the reader's strengths, but I do also have some areas of concern. She does repeat words and phrases often. Right now, this is not affecting her comprehension, but it could at a later time. She attempts the sound out strategy for multisyllable words. This seems to be her favorite strategy, and some suggestions I would have for her would be to look into chunking the words, breaking the words apart, and then blending it back together. She often inserts other words and omits words. She substitutes nonsense words for real words. And 15% of the time, she offers words with no graphic similarity. Another important step of Procedure 3 is to provide instructional recommendations or strategies to aid the reader in gaining proficiency. I noted that multisyllable word reading strategies would be useful and to move away from the sounded out strategy. Practicing fluency phrases such as fry phrases would also be acceptable. Main idea practice, possibly using a graphic organizer or highlighting passages, and participating in silent reading workshop times. Overall, she is a proficient second grade reader. I chose this reader to help her classroom teacher in strategies for tackling multisyllable words and deepening her comprehension strategies. After the completion of our Procedure 3 analysis, I invited MJ to join me in a retrospective Miscue analysis session. The purpose of this session is to engage the reader in their learning and help them become more proficient readers as they are able to listen to themselves and talk about their reading with their teacher. She noticed several miscues and she corrected those miscues along the way. She asked several clarifying questions as we were listening to her reading, asking me, does that make sense? Is that correct? Or is that the right word? She noticed a couple of miscues that I had not previously caught. She noted her personal strengths and areas of concerns. She said that she reads all the words, but she should ask for help on the unknown words. And all of her reading does sound like reading. Overall, the RMA was a positive experience for the reader and myself. She did note that she did not know if she thought she was a great reader after listening to herself. Said it was a weird experience to listen to herself read, and after that, she just thought that she was an okay reader. I hope she takes this as a learning opportunity and realizes that she really is a great reader and that we can all learn from our mistakes. I've provided 4 discussion questions. What strengths or areas of concern should still be addressed? How would you enhance the celebration process? Was this the appropriate analysis for this reader? Why or why not? And is it appropriate to use Procedure 3 on proficient readers, or would a different analysis serve more purpose? I look forward to hearing your responses to my discussion questions. Should you be interested, I have included the links of our audio and retell of Charlotte's Web, as well as the full audio of our RMA session. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope that you were able to learn something, and I look forward to learning from you as well.